In this video, I'm going to show you the best way to hunt the late season. So it's December 5th right now. We're in the second rut right now, and so really excited for the late season and what it has to bring. And just I had a really good season overall. I haven't tagged out on a buck yet, but I'm still happy either way if I do get one during the late season or not, because I've had really good hunts lately. I haven't had the opportunity to take one yet. I've had multiple encounters, but I haven't been able to actually get a shot off on a buck. I've had probably 4 or 5 different encounters with a mature buck this season on both properties that I hunt that I just haven't been able to shoot through. And so, I mean, last 2 weeks ago, I put out a video, or last week I put out a video of a deer. I was hunting a food plot. I had a mature buck to my right come in at 20 yards. There was just too much stuff to my right to shoot, and he eventually walked off the opposite way. Wanted to get out there the next morning, and it ended up raining, and then I had to leave that property. But still, I've had really good hunts, and still to come, hopefully, that we'll still be able to have some deer movement. The deer movement does, I believe the deer movement decreases, and the chance decreases during the late season. Not saying that you can't. I'm just saying really where I'm at around here, early season, and the rut is a really great time, and that's really the best, most activity during that time. And that's usually most for most people and most properties, but still, there's still it's not like there's no hope during the late season, but there is still a lot of the season left. It's just not going to be as probably productive as the early and the middle of the season. But starting off, this is number one is food. And so focusing on food is really important, because during the rut and during the second rut, like we're in right now, bucks lose 25% of their body fat or 20% of their body fat when they're chasing does. So they're running a lot during these 2 portions of season, I guess you could say. And so they're going to be really, I guess, exercising, and they're going to be out there running, chasing does. They're going to be active for the majority of the day. And so they really have to, after that kind of shift, after the rut happens and both rut happens, they have to go to that food. And so this is where late season food plots, if you have late season food, like planting corn in your food plots, even not too much, but a little bit of soybeans in there, that's some really good late season food for deer. And so that can really bring in mature bucks, because mature bucks are going to search for that food. They're going to look from far away to search where the best quality food source is that they can get during the late season. And so hopefully that you have a really good food plot, your food plot's doing good, and definitely going to make some changes next year with my food plot. I'm going to go a lot more corn, a lot more beans, so that way I have a good late season. We still got some brassicas, which is really nice. We have some brassicas and some turnips still during December 5th, and so I just hunted it last night during shotgun, and that food plot's still doing it's still doing decent for being December 5th right now. And so I really think that the plot start and plot boost really helped that. And so make sure you go check out Deer Grow's products. I'll leave a link in the description. But Deer Grow's products are really good, really made that food plot just explode this season. And so food is really key. Make sure you're focusing on food. And then 2 is bedding. Should you hunt bedding? There's a lot of different things about that. That's why I put a question mark at the end. And because bedding is really good, especially during the middle of the season and during the first portion of December. And so right now I'd still be hunting bedding areas probably for another week or so, because there's still second rut movement, there's still rut activity, and so those bedding areas can be really good. But once the rut activity wears off, we're getting into the late season, during the snow and all of that, during the winter, that's when you want to stop going into those bedding areas, because you have a chance of spooking deer, just like you do every time, but you have a really high percentage of spooking deer when you're going into a stand, and especially a bedding area stand during the month of December, or just during the winter in general. So you need to make sure that you're not going into those stands during bedding area times and during those hours, so that way you're not spooking deer going into the stand. And then number 3 is behavior and deer behavior, especially mature buck behavior during the winter. And that's really important to know and to understand, because mature bucks are definitely acting different. They're not going to be doing their regular thing during the winter, especially up north. It's just really a survival period for deer, and not so much during the Midwest, or especially down in the South, because the temperatures don't get that low. But especially up north, where those temperatures get really low, that's deer survival during the winter. And so that's not saying you shouldn't plant thermal cover and special cover for deer, so that way when the winter storms come, that they can be protected. You should definitely still do that wherever you're at, because that'll still act as a bedding area. But really making sure that your property has really good winter protection, like cedar trees, switchgrass, all of that stuff, and even taking note of that for next year, making sure you can plant those and those different seed types, so that way you can do that. But like I said, mature bucks lose about 20% of their body fat during the rut and the different rut periods, so they're going to be focusing on that food. That's going to be their main priority, like I said before, is to go focus on and find the best quality food that they can. And so their behavior changes. They're really going to stick to cover a lot more, and so you're going to see a lot more does than you are going to see mature bucks, because they're shrinking their range of where they're going. Mature bucks, they don't want to have to move as much during the winter, because they need to survive. They need to be in those bedding areas, and they need to be in that food, and they're not going to be moving as much as those does are. So that you're going to see a lot more does during the late season. And so that's also going to be kind of an indicator going into the late season. Once you start seeing a lot more does than you are bucks, then that's going to show you that the late season's kicking in, and that you need to go even climber stand hunting during the late season. Go find where those bucks are bedding at, go find where they're feeding at, and that's really good to do during the late season. And so number 4, snow and winter. Like I said, deer are in a survival period at that time in the majority of the regions, and so you're going to want to make sure that your property has the necessary things to keep deer on your property during the late season, and be able to bed on your property during the late season. And that's what I'm working on here. There's not much cover on my property, so that's what I'm really trying to upgrade in the coming seasons. And so hopefully we can have some good late season hunts even this year as well with the food. But still, it's not going to be as good for me, because I still have to work on that. I still have to let that grow. But if you already have that, that's really good, and you can upgrade that yourself. You're using switchgrass, red cedar trees, a bunch of different things to make sure that you're having deer on your property during the late season. And so snow and winter, that food really dies out. And so finding those food sources during the winter, especially when the snow is down, finding where the deer are eating is really, really important, because there's not a lot of food. And when you find that food during the late season, that's where all the deer are going to be. That's where you're going to find the mature bucks hiding and feeding right there. So making sure that you know where that winter food at is really important. And that's pretty much really the main theme of the late season is the food. You need to make sure that your trail cameras are really on food sources. Even I know some people change where their trail cameras are at during the month of December. They go put them on a bunch of food sources, and that's okay to do. But I wouldn't personally do that. I'm not going to go change the trail cameras where they're at. But it's just food is the overall main thing during the late season. Making sure you have that food is really important, so that way you can tag a mature buck during the late season.